This is Wink Tracks the Tropics, powered by the Weather Authority.
When the tropics are active, timing is everything. The Weather Authority is keeping you prepared.
The latest update did come in from the National Hurricane Center. Helene moving north-northeast. Winds have increased up to 90 miles per hour.
Keeping you informed.
It's now 170 miles northwest of us, and as we had mentioned, this is a major Cat 4 hurricane. This is going to have major landfall implications.
Southwest Florida has seen its fair share of storms in the past few years.
We are leaving immediately after this because it is not safe. You're starting to see some of these debris, sticks flying up and out, and it's one of the reasons why Sanibel is evacuated. It clearly is not safe out here.
But our slice of paradise has bounced back in ways we'd never expect.
It was tough. We had each other, and that's a good thing.
I wouldn't have made it without Marianne. We're going to make it, though. We're going to make it.
Wink News has been there with you every step of the way, and that won't change.
Yes, we avoid the worst part of the storm, but the wind field's growing and the pressures are deepening. We're going to feel more of that influence on the back end with the surge.
From forecast cones to important safety reminders, the Weather Authority has you covered. You're watching Wink Tracks the Tropics. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Wink Tracks the Tropics. I'm Wink Weather Authority's Val Simpson, and today we have a lot to talk about, just like every other day that here at Wink Tracks the Tropics. We have an area that we're watching, a broad area of low pressure that could become Jerry, the next name on the list, by midweek. We're going to discuss all that. What impacts could we see here in Southwest Florida, if any? And also we have our panel that's going to be discussing the situation because we have a supermoon that's going to be peaking tonight. We could see some impacts here in our southern coastal areas. We'll be talking about that as well today. What a great way to start the week. And before we do so and we get started with this episode, I want Andrew to go ahead and punch the question of the day. Now, we are in October. We're headed into the second week of the month. Yet temperatures are very, very warm. I should say hot, actually. So I want to know, what is your ideal daytime high? That brings that question up. And let's punch our panel because I want you guys to get a chance to answer this question as well. What is the ideal temperature?
Yeah, I'll start things off. For me, it's 80 degrees flat, but you need the sunshine out there too. I don't want a single cloud in the sky. I want it to be completely sunny, 80 degrees. Humidity can be whatever it wants. I'm going to be a happy camper.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I think 73 degrees and sunny.
Wow.
73, sunny. Like, I know it's a little bit cooler for Southwest Florida standards, but if that's the high temperature, then you know it's a beautiful day.
Yeah. Should it just kind of be the Price is Right in between and just go like the sunny and 75, like the song, the country song? No, I like 80. I think I'll go with Josh, where that 80-degree mark, sunny. I want the lower humidity though, because we could have that 80 in the morning with that high humidity. That does not feel great. So I'm going to go low humidity, dew points in the 60s or 50s, possibly 40s, and nice. 80. Yeah, that'll be my perfect ideal daytime high.
I love it. I love it. And I have to agree. Anything without humidity, I'll take it. I'm just going to be straight up. And we want to hear from you too. So if you're watching, if you're tuning in, make sure that you leave us your comments and let us know what your daytime high preference is. You can do so on our YouTube page. We're going to be monitoring those comments coming in. And also, you can do so on our Facebook page. All right, why don't we get started here and we do a little review of what is going on. I'm going to go ahead and punch this graphic up for you guys so that you can take a look. The good news is, as we get started, nothing going on in the Caribbean, nothing going on in the Gulf, but there is this area of a broad area of low pressure that we're watching in the Atlantic. As you can see, it has a chance of development in that red blob that you're watching on screen right now. It's potential that it has a potential of becoming tropical by midweek. And like I mentioned to you before, the next name on the list is Jerry. Now, a lot of the models are agreeing and they're curving this north. This is actually a steering pattern that we've seen with a lot of our storms in this hurricane season. But take a look down there. It says, in the next 7 days, it has a 70% chance of development. So why is it that it's taking it that long to develop? Are those factors in there? Do we have the sea surface temperatures? Is it battling shear? Is it battling dry air? We're going to talk about that with the panel. And then in the next 2 days, it has a 50% chance of development. Now, I mentioned to you that a lot of the models are in agreement that this is going to take that curve to the north. Obviously, we're watching this because once it forms, we'll have a better idea. But notice how there's a couple of models that do have it kind of just gracing through Puerto Rico, the island of Puerto Rico there. So anything here and in this area, in this location, needs to keep an eye on it. Now, it is staying, from what we can see, way to the east of Florida, of the coast of the United States. And what is contributing to this steering, or why are these models in agreement because of this? Well, in part is because there is a front that's going to be actually shielding us. It's going to be protecting us from it. And we can see this front is going to be pushing down through the weekend. And for us here locally, it's going to be bringing us a little bit of drier air. But let's bring the panel up because I do want to talk about this area that we're seeing here. Guys, what do you think in your experience? What do you think is going on with this? Why hasn't it yet formed? What factors is it waiting for that needs to play in for the formation of this possible system?
I think in terms of the system, why it hasn't formed yet, it's just because a lot of systems, when it's in the same spot, haven't formed that quickly. Most of the systems, when we've seen them as invests in this right around the same latitude, longitude so far this season, hasn't developed in that region just because of some dry air, like you mentioned, but also it just does take its time for it to develop. It takes time for the lows to get together. There's multiple areas of low pressure sometimes at first within these disorganized areas of showers and thunderstorms. It takes time for those to congeal into one. It takes time for those to organize. And then once we kind of see that organization, we usually see it ramp up pretty quickly. I know Josh has a little bit more to add on that as well, but that's what I currently think is that it generally does take some time for systems to organize. Once they do organize, we could see some development rather quickly once we see that low come together.
Yeah, this one's really still in its infant stages. We've tracked a lot of these tropical waves that have made their way from Africa across the Atlantic Ocean, and you'll notice typically for about the first 5, maybe even 7 days, it doesn't do much, right? It just stays a tropical wave, an area of disorganized showers and storms. And once it enters some more favorable conditions, typically when it gets a little bit closer to the Eastern Caribbean, then you start to see it become a little bit better organized. This is likely what that one is going to do as well. But you know, the thing we like to see is the model trends, right?
Yeah.
That sharp curve off towards the north, that makes me happy.
Yeah,
Me too.
Lauren, I was going to ask you about this. Do you think that we could possibly see it turning sooner, or maybe perhaps turning later? That wouldn't be favorable for areas like Puerto Rico, for instance. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's something that we're going to keep an eye on, of course, for them, for the Caribbean islands especially. But we've been watching those computer models, and Zach and I were just looking at some of the models before we jumped on the show, and they are in very good agreement, which is what we like to see, of course. We're not seeing those spaghetti models go everywhere all sporadically all over the place where, you know, we're seeing them close together. You see that cluster there, how close they are together. Of course, long term, though, we're still watching. We're still going to keep an eye on this, though those models have it curving away from the United States at this time. Our friends in the Caribbean islands, it's still something that we'll continue to monitor for them.
Let me do a little bit of a deep dive real quick on what we're seeing as meteorologists for those who are watching. When we kind of see these models, you may say, well, why are some curving and why are some just ending completely? In terms of all the models, the European model doesn't have this developing much at all. In fact, the European model has it just kind of being an open wave dying off. It's one of the only ones that has that scenario. The rest of the models, including the GFS, Canadian, the Google AI model, which was pretty good with Imelda last week, all have it developing. So you could say, okay, why did those two other models, as I move back and forth, how did those two other models impact that area? You know, two other models falling off right there. Why are they farther off to the south? It's just because they are weaker and it has it falling apart completely. So those are the anomalies right now. It doesn't look that likely at all. In fact, it looks more likely that this could develop into a tropical storm Jerry, possibly even to a strong tropical storm, if not a Category 1 hurricane. Google AI model has been saying that the past day or so, between a strong tropical storm or a low in Category 1 hurricane. And if it does develop, whether, you know, regardless of how strong it gets, it's going to be very, very far to our east, all because of our approaching cold front this weekend.
Zach, you totally were one step ahead because that was the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Of course, intensity, right? So, yeah, the models are saying that it's going to maybe just stay a tropical storm or perhaps a low-end Cat 1 or 2. Why is that? Because aren't sea surface temperatures there?
Yeah, you know, we still have the warm waters, and overall, I mean, the conditions are still somewhat favorable, but here's the thing. Not every storm has to explode into a Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricane like we've seen a few of them do this year. Sometimes you don't have those same exact environmental characteristics. Also, another thing that we probably have to consider is just how much of that ocean heat content some of those larger storms have kind of eaten up the past couple of months, right? When we say ocean heat content, it's not just how warm the surface of the water is, but how deep down does that warm water extend? We know that hurricanes, they use warm water as fuel. So some of those larger hurricanes that have taken similar tracks to what we are expecting this one to take have probably eaten up a good bit of that oceanic heat content. Therefore, there's not as much left behind for this one. So that could absolutely be one of the contributing factors as to why this one may not get as strong. But again, overall, sometimes it is more so the anomaly when we see these major hurricanes versus a Cat 1 or Cat 2.
Yeah, so again, I know we touched on this, but just to be really clear, there's no impacts that Southwest Florida needs to be worried about.
No.
Who should be monitoring closely?
I don't even think Bermuda has to be monitoring that closely with this one. It looks to be staying far to the east. I don't think too many people have to worry about it whatsoever. And in terms of kind of the piggyback on what Josh was just talking about as well, as we get farther into October, we get the jet stream across the northern hemisphere to ramp up. It becomes more intense. It adds more wind shear. It gets farther south. We have one cold front arriving as we head into the weekend, and that's just an indicator that as we get towards fall, our northern hemisphere jet stream gets farther and farther south instead of being farther off towards the north. So it's one of those things that's going to be impacting the strength of all these storms as well. The higher wind shear, as we get a little bit more of dynamics within the jet stream and within the subtropical ridge area of high pressure across the Atlantic, you're going to get less and less stronger storms unless you have a perfect scenario where you would have far less wind shear like we had with a Michael years ago in the northern Gulf. You'd have to kind of fit between that next front and that area of high pressure to get it to allow it to strengthen, which is just a lot rarer as we get into October. The deeper we get into hurricane season from October to November, the jet stream ramps up a lot more, and it's just kind of a more finite zone that would cause these storms to rapidly intensify compared to the more conducive August, September, and early October pattern that we usually see.
Guys, so let's talk about what we've seen so far this hurricane season. Have we been lucky? What's going on with the steering? I mean, because I know that every situation and every storm was a little different, but I mean, knock on wood, I'm not complaining, okay? I just want to kind of just analyze what we've seen with these storms so far, because Aaron took the turn, Gabrielle took the turn, Umberto, Imelda. So can we touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, the answer is I talked about it a lot during our hurricane talks when I go to so many communities across Southwest Florida. At the beginning of the season, I did mention, it's always scary to mention, but I did mention that we'd have significantly less storms than we had this season before, and we'd have significantly less impactful storms, less U.S. landfalls because of the placement and strength of the Bermuda High. Last year, it was closer to the United States. You had a little bit of an ENSO effect to that. You actually had water temperatures as well as a placement of water temperatures in the central Atlantic that had an influence on where that area of high pressure sets up. Sometimes it sets up closer to the United States. Sometimes it sets up farther away. 2023 was a year that the system, the area of high pressure developed farther east in the Atlantic. It just allows more of those storms to curve earlier than they would in years past. So it all is dependent on where the steering currents are at, high in the sky, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 feet in the sky. That's what directly steers these stronger storms. And if that area of high pressure is farther east, like it is this year, like it was in 2023, most of those storms stay out far east of the United States. You could have a Florence situation where it's kind of the same thing, where you have that high build back in, push it back to the Carolinas when it was supposed to curve and head off to the Atlantic, but it didn't. But then also in 2023, we had Idalia, which did develop in the Caribbean and did ride across the eastern Gulf. So just because the Bermuda High is farther east doesn't mean the Caribbean or southern Gulf is turned off. We could still have development in the Caribbean or the Gulf move into the northern Gulf or eastern Gulf. That area of high pressure doesn't turn that system off completely, but it is the sole reason why we see storms coming from Africa turning off toward the northeast. It's directly because of that, where that high is located and how strong it is.
Yeah. So this front headed our way, bringing us not cooler temperatures, but drier air, and we'll take it.
A little cooler. I'll take a little cooler
yeah?
too. Yeah.
So you think a little cooler in the mornings?
Mornings, I mean, I'll take 2 degrees cooler in the afternoon. We're getting closer to that Josh's and I 80. You know, we're getting back down to 86 versus the 90 we have today. I'll take that 4-degree cool off next week.
Give it another month, it'll be here.
Yeah, and even like stepping outside the door this morning, it didn't really feel that bad yet. I'm like, oh, it kind of feels like October a little bit. So once we get even a little front, hopefully, you know, it makes it even feel a little bit more like October.
Lauren, and I know that you brought some information today because we have something that might bring some local impacts, minor impacts, but we do want to point that out and we do want to talk about it because today we're going to have a supermoon that's going to be peaking close to midnight, correct? So
That's right.
Let me go ahead and punch that for you so that you can see it.
If you saw it last night, I mean, it looked gorgeous.
Oh,
in
I
the
took
sky.
a picture.
I took a picture too.
Yeah.
It never looks good on the phone. I don't know how that happens, you know, but the supermoon, it's closer to the Earth and it is going to appear bigger and brighter. You saw that yesterday, but today is when that peak is. In fact, peaks around 11-something, 11:47, 11:48. Yes, this evening. So you'll get to see that in the night sky. Of course, you know, given cloud cover overhead, but I mean, yesterday we got a good view of it. Closer distance, that increases the gravitational pull, and that's why you may notice some of that minor coastal flooding. In fact, National Weather Service put out a statement this weekend because of some of that coastal flooding we may see, particularly along Naples. I know meteorologist Zach Malak and my friend here, Josh Green, was talking about that on air this morning, just how those higher tides contribute. You know, we can see some of that coastal flooding, which is so interesting, all because of the full moon, that gravitational pull. So it's super cool to see.
It's amazing. And this is supposed to be one of 3 that we're still going to see this year, correct, guys?
Yeah, it's our first supermoon too of 2025, which is funny because, you know, we're in October, so the year's, I mean, month 10, and it's our first one of the year.
Yeah, it is traditional. Come fall, usually October, November, December are the 3 that we have to watch closely. Only because we have had impacts in the past where people's boat docks are covered by water, possibly even the seawalls get covered by water. If we don't talk about it enough on TV or on social media, a lot of people go, well, what's going on? You know, why didn't anyone tell me about this? You know, what's leading to it? But it is directly an effect of the moon's distance to the Earth, the gravitational pull from it, and that does lead to those higher tides across the region, which will be slightly an impact today, if not even today, more so even tomorrow.
Our East Coast friends, you know, they see more of an impact. I know being from the East Coast of Florida, West Palm, you know, there's typically, you can really notice, there's some roads you can drive on, you can see that flooding pretty evident there, but you know, we still can see that here, especially as you mentioned, Zach, along those boat docks, especially you can notice just a little bit higher tide there.
Yeah. And staying on this topic, we do have our Wink Weather Watcher Spotlight. Josh, I know that you have something prepared for us. Let's take a look.
Yeah, absolutely. Our weather watchers are going to be very important to us, especially over the next 24, 48 hours, perhaps catching some photographs of some of those slightly higher waters. Now, of course, we talked about why. Of course, that's going to be that full moon, that supermoon. This is a picture of it last night in the veranda community there. You know, I show this picture not only just because it's the most impressive picture of the moon, just because of how bright it is, right? That's kind of the cool part, because we talked about how a supermoon will appear bigger and brighter. So tonight, it's going to light up that night sky. And we could be contending with some of that cloud cover like you're seeing here. So imagine this picture, but just a little bigger and a little brighter. That's what we have on tap for tonight. And of course, that's what's going to contribute to some of that slightly higher tides out there. So again, if you want to join the Weather Watchers crew, go for it. We'd love to see those pictures of the full moon tonight. And if you live on the water, if you see some of that water going a little bit higher than normal, we'd love to see that too. I know Lauren was talking about some of the current alerts that we have in place. There's a coastal flood statement for coastal Collier County. Now, we're looking at tides that are probably going to be around a foot higher than normal. In some spots, yeah, that is impactful enough. You're likely going to see similar conditions in coastal Lee and Charlotte County. The reason why you're not seeing that flood statement for Lee and Charlotte is because these are issued by the National Weather Service. So the National Weather Service in Miami is the one that issued these. They are in charge of the coverage area for Collier County, not for Lee and Charlotte. So it's our friends in Tampa just didn't issue that. They typically don't. But you see how that turns into a coastal flood advisory on the East Coast. Like Lauren was talking about, it's likely going to be more so 1 to 2 feet higher than normal tide. In addition to that, you think about the winds. The winds right now are more so out of the east, so that's an onshore flow for our friends on the East Coast. That's going to help pile up that water a little bit more. 2 years ago, I was just looking into it, there were some pretty impressive water totals there in downtown Fort Myers because of one of these, we call them king tides out there, just because the winds were blowing in from the southwest. Now, we want to show you some of these tide times if you do live on the water, just to keep this in mind. These are going to be our next high tide times. We'll start in Charlotte County. There's the harbor there. We'll move down to Lee County, where you see Fort Myers at around 4:15. Our friends on Sanibel, Captiva, 12:30 to 1:30, so more so the midday hours. Cape Coral, I know a lot of us on the water there, high tide around 3:30, and then officially down to Collier County. If you're on Marco Island, around 1 o'clock. Naples, same thing. Everglades City, a little bit later, around 2:52.
Sorry.
Yeah, in terms of the big headlines too that Josh was just talking about, the other big difference, I was looking into the specific sensors so far this morning. The sensors from Naples compared to the sensors in Fort Myers on the Caloosahatchee, towards those in the Southeast Cape, to those on Boca Grande heading into Charlotte Harbor. The sensors in Collier County are currently in active flood stage, and they are approaching minor flood stage. So that is the reasoning why the National Weather Service in Miami did issue that coastal flood statement. It's because that 1 foot higher does have our sensors in Collier County, specifically near the Naples Bay Marina, as well as off towards the Naples Bay area itself, where the sensor is located, is in that minor flood stage. Compared to the sensors from the Imperial River in Bonita Springs, all the way through Lover's Key, all the way through downtown Fort Myers, we are still running a foot above normal, but being a foot above normal through many of those sensors still keeps it below any active or any minor flood stage. So that could be also a reason why the National Weather Service in Tampa Bay did not decide to put Lee and Charlotte counties under those coastal flood statements, just because we do see that same increase that Collier County is, but compared to our actual sensors, we're below the flood stage in Lee and Charlotte counties compared to being at that minor flood stage over the next couple of days in Collier County. So just kind of keep that in mind, especially for Collier County residents. There are a few homes that do have some impact from time to time up the Gordon River, as well as just in the North Naples, even South Naples towards Port Royal. That community sometimes will see some water nearby some of those seawalls. So that's something you'll notice, especially in Collier County and even Everglades City throughout the day today and even into tomorrow.
Guys, I'm going to take a little break to read some comments, and we have a question coming up here. These are from Facebook. We have Aaron Lowe. He's saying that he would like to see 85 degrees in October.
Okay.
We also have
That's doable. That's really doable.
Not bad.
Next week.
Also,
Yeah.
hi, Aaron.
There we go. Yes. Then we have Christine Rawlings. She said 74.
I like it.
Right
I
up
like
my
it.
alley there.
Yeah. I like
it.
73, 74. I like it.
Chrissy C, she says, why would you jinx us like that, young lady, and say we have been lucky so far this year? I guess she was talking to me. What'd you say?
Well, there's only 2 of us young ladies here, so either one of us. But
I'm joking. But yes, no, we don't want to jinx it at all. We're with you, Chrissy. I mean, we won't say that again. And then the question coming in, this is from John Espo. I'm sorry, John Espo. He says, how are the Saharan sands? I'm assuming he's saying the Saharan dust. So is there something that we should, I mean, I feel like we're still seeing plumes making their way out of the coast of Africa. What do you guys think?
yeah, I mean, this is the time of year where we start to see less and less of those Saharan dust plumes. Still seeing some of that drier air, which is great news for us because, as we mentioned, we don't want that tropical activity. And I mean, ultimately, we can see that drier air working its way through. Again, we see less and less of those plumes as, I mean, typically it peaks around June, July, August, and we see less. But still seeing some of that lingering Saharan dust out there, which definitely helps to keep things nice and dry and inhibit some of that development.
Yeah, do you think that that's also the reason? I think that, Zach, you touched on it as well. You were saying that, you know, there is some dry air right now, and that also plays a role in this Invest 95L that we're watching right now, correct?
Yeah, to answer that question specifically, I don't think it's enough to be the sole reason why it's not developing as fast. There's not that much out there at the moment. Mainly still just off the coast of Africa. I think the big reason why we haven't seen it develop as quickly is just because we do see multiple areas of low pressure, and it does take time for those to congeal into one, for one low to become the dominant low and to take over and allow that system to become more organized, centrally located, and to develop that surface circulation. So there could be some dust around there, but it's not the biggest player, I think, right now in the Atlantic.
And then also with timing with this front that's actually protecting us from anything getting close to us, right? Kind of acting as a shield. If timing were to be off, do we still fall back on the Bermuda High for steering?
Yeah, I think it's honestly probably the bigger player right now. Here, I got an easy way to think about it. The high is pretty much the leader in all of this, right? That's the one that's going to be weaker and further east. It allows the system. These systems, they generally want to go north. All right, there has to be something that continues to force them to go west, so we don't have that. Think about the cold front coming in as like our little secondary defense, right? That's our backup. Let's say in case the high was stronger, then you still have that front coming in, and storms just can't battle that and go past it.
So Josh is saying he's put 2 safeties far near the end zone, and it's the 4th down, and in case a Hail Mary gets thrown, the safeties are going to take care of it just fine.
I call this cover 2. In case you play football.
I'm not a sports girly, so that just went way over my head, but I'm very happy for you guys.
Same.
I hope that resonated with somebody out there.
Yeah, I hope so.
Josh is also saying that the goal is not empty, by the way. There is currently a goalie in play. You cannot score
okay,
with the goal.
soccer, yeah.
Now you're speaking my
now the
language.
hockey's back with us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking weather here.
Or soccer, yeah, I get that.
Val, I do want to add something going back to the moon real quick. I have had people ask how can they take a good picture of the moon, and we're of course always looking for pictures to be put on Wink News. And I had to Google it because I remember learning this before, but it actually works. But if you have a typical iPhone, any phone, Android, doesn't matter. This is just a little life hack to get a picture of that moon tonight. You got to put the phone on video mode. I know it sounds weird because you're trying to take a picture of it, right? But then you're going to zoom in as much as possible. So you're videoing, zooming in into that moon. It's going to look like a bright dot, of course. It's not going to look like the moon. You're not going to see those craters. But to focus it, you're going to tap and lock it. When you tap it, it locks the focus of it, so it focuses right on the moon. And then if you drag it down, I know this is a lot of information, you may have to replay this to hear it. If you drag it down, it brings the exposure down, which allows you to see the crater. So now you have this video of the moon, right? And then if you screenshot it, then you'll get a cool picture of it, and then you can send it our way, and we'd love to show it on air. So video is the key, zooming in, adjusting that exposure, screenshot.
And do it horizontal.
I learned something, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot to it, but if you ever want to know how to get, because when I aim my phone at the sky to take a picture, it looks
isn't that the worst, right? You see this beautiful moon out there, you're like, I'm about to take the best picture ever, and all of a sudden you look at your phone and you're like, this looks like a small streetlight.
Yeah.
Such good advice. And this brings me to the next thing. If you want to become a Wink Weather Watcher, you can do so by going to our website, winknews.com. You can find our link there. It's going to ask you to sign a release form so that we can use your pictures and videos, and also it gives you exclusive access to our Facebook group where all our Wink Watchers share all their pictures and videos. And I think that your tip is going to be coming very handy for our very loyal Wink Weather Watchers. Guys, any takeaways from today's episode before we leave?
I think my key takeaway is that, yes, we're watching another system. Yes, we're still busy out there in hurricane season, but I like what I see in terms of our trends for at least the next 7 to 10 days. We'll keep this thing going until we get to November 30th, and we'll enjoy our winter.
Love that.
Yeah, let's check another name off the list and have it just not be an impactful storm.
100%.
So, our J name storm on tap, Jerry. And then what's next? Karen.
Let's have Jerry be the last one. I don't feel like.
You don't want a Karen?
I don't want a
I
Karen.
agree.
Okay.
No offense to Karen, if you're watching, we love you. You're such a sweet lady. We know you very, very well. But in terms of the storm name, yeah, we're okay with that.
Yeah, we can stop at J. I agree with that. That's a good takeaway.
I agree. I want to thank you guys. Thank you, panel, for joining us today on this episode. And I want to thank you for tuning in. Thanks again. We will catch you tomorrow here, same time, 11 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Till next time.
Bye.
Ciao.